when the whites got there, they were just busy murdering each other, like all the time. There was so much hatred. Even when I was small,
and a lot of them are very corrupt. There's 10,000 of them that shouldn't be there, that have criminal records against them. 10,000.
If you shoot an intruder in your house, chances of you going to jail is pretty good.
The guy comes into your house, he breaks into your house.
Please leave.
It just doesn't make sense. I mean...
So I took this book and I just finished reading a preface, which is about, I'll say about 15, 20 pages, thinking that it helps me learn more about, where she's from. The reality in South Africa seems pretty different and unique compared to like what I know. All I knew, like how like societies and people's lives before I met her are basically those of Japan and America, especially Japan, which is very homogeneous country where people are like, whenever they hear black people, they most likely think of Africans with dark skin complexions in general.
Yeah.
Or, the dynamics in America with like, white supremacy and black minority and Black Lives Matter and, police brutality and all that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can tell me just anything about what it's like to live in South Africa as a white person and as a minority, or any relevant stories or episodes that you may like to share.
The first thing really is that a lot of people, Americans especially, Africa to them is someplace, somewhere. They see it as a single country. Yes, it's a continent, but it's 54 different countries.
Yeah.
Different people, different languages, different everything. So the majority is black, but they're not the same. So it's ludicrous really to want to put everything together and say Africa is the same, we are one, because they're not. History, there's been wars and fights and whatever between them, like any different nations. They don't always get together and so on. So that's the whole thing. And then for us in South Africa, we get blamed for apartheid and everything that's ever been wrong with the country, we get blamed for that. But before the white came to Africa, there was nothing much. They talk about cities, but there's no proof. They can't show a city, collections of people in some places. But it wasn't a city as we understand it today. It was like a kraal, with little huts all around, and the king was there. And the king was all powerful. They didn't say in anything. The king would just decide what is what and what was going to happen, and these people just followed. So for some reason we are blamed for everything, but who created infrastructure in this country? Who introduced black people to the wheel? Because until the whites came, they never saw a wheel. They didn't know what it was. They had no use for it. They walked where they wanted to go, and that was it. So right through history, you can look at any infrastructure, and it was built because of white people, with their knowledge, with their intelligence. And then the guys go back and I say, but remember, Africa is the cradle of humankind. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but my own thoughts around that, which maybe is for another discussion. Up to 94, things were pretty normal for us as white people. There's after 94 that things started to change, where the new government seems to be hell-bent on forcing its will on the people.
1904?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
1994.
1994,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, 1994.
94, that's when the voting was done, when the ANC came into power. And unfortunately, in the last 30 years, everything that we have, that major infrastructure, has been systematically destroyed. Eskom, which are power supplier, we used to be able to supply power to the whole of Africa, whoever wanted it. Now we can't even supply power to our own country. Our rail system is totally destroyed. It's been stolen. It's been cut up in pieces and stolen for scrap. Whatever you want to mention, it's gone down the drain.
Eskom.
And you cannot play apartheid and white that.
Yeah, my dad must also remember about Eskom, the steel, those big steel companies.
Eskom. The list is almost endless of the places that were built. total economy and industries that have been destroyed. So yeah, who do you blame? I still want to blame apartheid for that, but we haven't, the apartheid people, so to speak, haven't been in charge of this country for 30 years. I think the one question you had was, what was it for Monique like growing up in the farm? That was before 94. And then we still had the threat of terrorists coming across the border. And we were in that so-called red zone where we stayed.
Yeah,
So yes, the army did issue us with rifles, but I had military training, so it made a lot of sense to protect ourselves and even our neighbors, if they needed assistance. But we didn't have any problems really, because the border was still pretty well protected by the military then.
Okay.
It was more in the cities where they had the bombs and stuff like that. But on the farm it was really not a big issue. And like I said, in 94 then we moved, and then slowly things changed to what they are now.
After 94, if you still lived in your farm, things would be different, would you say? Or more incidents like
We did.
might have occurred?
Yeah, we were there for a little bit, but it didn't change really for us. It was, the politics of the day. That's always the biggest thing that changes. The politicians and the changes. And the first place you'll see changes will be in the cities, where they start renaming streets and buildings, and for no real purpose, but it is just to, I think, put their own stamp on and say we are now in power, and we will no longer call these streets by your Afrikaner Boere names. We will put names of our own people. Which is ideologically maybe one thing to do, but in real terms it didn't change anything. It didn't improve anybody's life or nothing. It's just politics.
No.
More paperwork and things to remember, like address system change, or
it's just a waste of money actually, because it takes a lot of money to rename streets.
Yeah.
When I was young on the farm, the area we lived in called Messina there weren't a lot of black people. I mean, yes, there were the people that lived and worked on the farms, but like the one guy that worked for our family, his name was Cement, and all of his kids, his whole family, they lived on the farm, and that's the way it worked.
Was it like a big family?
Yeah, so how it would be is him and his wife, and then all of their kids and their kids' kids, they all lived on the farm.
Okay,
so not all of them
multiple generations.
Not all of them worked on the farm, but all of them lived together on the farm. That's just how things were done back then. I know there was a stage where Dad used to deduct money from their wages so that he could make sure that they actually bought milli meal so that they could make pop. Otherwise, if you gave the guys all of their pay, they would drink all of their pay out, and then they would not have any food. So now you have like whole families, wives and children and whatnot, going hungry because the husband drank all of the money. So what they used to do is they used to deduct the money for, I think, a bag of milli meal per family.
So what happens is you give them the money, they go and they spend it on drink and stuff, and then on the Monday the women and the children are at the house begging for food because there's no food. So I stopped that. I said, no, I will keep your money. Once a month, at the end of the month, we go to town with a bucky, I'll take you there, and we buy your food, a bag of meal and all of the other necessities. And then what's left over, that you can have for a drink or something. But at least, we ensured that the family was looked after. And stuff like meat, they would get on the farm for free. If we hunt, they always get their share. It was just a way of life. And then in their culture, we were like parents to them. Although they might have been older than us, we were like, in a way, responsible for them. Because they lived on our farm. It's a very unusual way of thinking, but that's just the culture. And if they were in trouble, we had to help them and look after them. The one was stung by a scorpion. Then, I took him to the hospital in town for treatment and so on. It's just the way it was. And it wasn't, nobody was really unhappy. Just, everybody had their place in life. Obviously now the new cultures and the young people see totally differently. They see that those people were slaves. I don't agree with that, because those people could come and go as they like. If they didn't want to work for us, they could pack their stuff and go.
Yeah, it wasn't like in America where they bought the people and you were stuck to that farm. These people, they lived there because most of the family members worked on our farm. But I mean, they could anytime they wanted to and said, no, we don't like you people anymore, we're gonna move. Oh, okay, move wherever you want to go. I know some of Cement's sons went to one of the neighboring farms at some point, or his son's sons, or something like that, but they didn't work on our farm, they worked on the farm next door, like the farm one farm over, like our neighbors. But okay, our neighbors are, it's a very far away, but our neighbors.
Like how far apart?
I don't know, how big was the farm? Dad, you're going to have to help me. I can't remember. It was pretty big.
It was like 2,500 hectares. I don't know how that relates to any other measurement. We know there's hectares.
If you have to work it to square meters, what do you think it would be?
By road, we were about 8 kilometers from town, a little bit more by road. But compared to Japan, this is big pieces of land.
Yeah,
but it's
very big.
Totally different.
Japan is tiny. So it wasn't like any notable event related to, because this book's preface has quite a few examples of author's personal friends or people he know. They're in the farm and they just got raided and killed brutally all of a sudden out of nowhere.
This stuff only started happening.
That's not the weird thing. When they were still seen as terrorists, there was a little bit of that, not much, but since 94 where they got their freedom, that book really goes about that. How heavily the assaults and the murders increased on the farms up to now. It is now, it's like there's a new war on to get farmers off their land. And they're easy targets because the farmer and his family sit alone on the farm. There's nobody close nearby. So you can sit there in the bush and you can watch them for days to make sure what their patterns are, what they do, when they do what. And you can attack them when it suits you. And now you say, but hang on, they won the majority, they are in control of the country. Why do this? But there's always stuff behind that. But I know about the book. It all relates to basically last 30 years, maybe a bit more, of killing of the Boers, the farmers, because Boer in Afrikaans, Boer, means farmer.
Yeah, I heard that,
Some, like the EFF, they use it as a swear word. They use it as an insult if you're a Boer. We don't see it like that. We say, well, whatever, call me a Boer, I don't mind.
It's kind of like maybe in America
where black guys say nigger.
Nigger.
Yeah, but the thing is it's a name that our culture has always been called, so it's not like weird or funny.
Or otherwise, sometimes we're called Afrikaners, but that's the language we speak. We speak Afrikaans. That is our own language.
Yeah.
There's 11 official languages in this country. Can you imagine?
That's far beyond my imagination. I'm stuck with just Japanese and English.
Languages, it's a minefield really. Everybody speaks their own languages.
Yeah.
So there's 11 official languages that are acknowledged in the country. Afrikaans being one, English being one. The main language in business is English.
Yeah.
And in politics, just so that everybody can understand each other. But so I'm an Afrikaner, big deal. I'm proud of it.
Thumbs up. Yeah. Yeah. She also showed me her elementary school classroom picture when you were in grade 2, 3 ish.
Yeah, I did.
Looked at it like all white, including kids, teachers. That kind of makes me wonder if we were talking about it yesterday. She told me some examples, but nowadays, like how white and blacks need to be like separated in reality, or in what circumstance they still have connections, like when you just as simple as go shop groceries, for example, you encounter some like shopkeepers that are opposite races of yours, and
so in the old days when it was still apartheid, each tribe, each culture had their own homeland. And then, like Pretoria and Joburg, those places were for the whites. That's where we lived. That was our homeland. So they would have passbooks. So if you wanted to go to someone else's area, you would have to use your passbook. And you couldn't sleep in that area. You had to go to your own, wherever you came from. I know we had a lady that looked after me when I was very young, that helped my mom. I think she slept at the house. Yeah. So there were instances that
maids that would stay their own room and bathroom adjoining the house, and they would stay there unless they went home for weekend or holiday or whatever. But they would work in the house and they would help to clean and do the washing and dishes and cook and everything. That was the standard thing. But again, they were never slaves. They could come and go as they liked. If they didn't like working there, they could give notice and go. And the perception created that they didn't have a choice. They were like bound to the place. That was never the case.
No, they all had a homeland. So every single tribe had a homeland. They still have their homelands. So
never changed.
Because when the whites got there, they were just busy murdering each other, like all the time. There was so much hatred, especially between like the Zulu and the Tswana or the Sotho. They cannot stand each other. They hate each other with a passion. So they used to just murder. I mean, even when I was small, there used to be a bunch of photographers called the Bang Bang Breakfast Club that used to go out and take photos and videos of these guys just murdering each other. Up until the point where the police were like, what are we supposed to do with these people?
And their overall education levels and everything was
low, very low.
Relatively much lower. So there are all the systems and rules set based on difference and to make everything function for both parties. Like that's the whole point.
That was the whole point.
Am I interpreting correctly?
Like especially on the mines where most of them were migrant workers from different areas. On the weekends, they would have non-stop fights. The one group against the other group. It's just their nature. I don't know why they did it, but that to them was like the manly thing to do, is to go and demolish the other group, which was just foreign to us. Eskom's major failure is corruption by the black people in control of Eskom. It was never the case. Like I said before, Eskom was it was seen worldwide as one of the best electrical producers in the world. And up to date, we are really nowhere. I mean, there's many countries in Africa that outrun us as far as that is concerned, which was never the case. But then it's easy to always blame the white apartheid or whatever. We don't worry about that too much anymore.
No.
And the other fallacy is that, like the EFF say, like the whole country was occupied by black people when the whites came. And it isn't true. History shows that most of the country was barren. The Khoi and the San were the only people. They were like what we now call Bushmen. They are a different tribe totally from the black people. And they were nomads. They would travel around in groups, following the food and animals and whatever. They never really settled in one place. There were some of them that settled around the coast, but the most of
Leon,
Africa really,
sorry not to cut you off.
really
They're literally like less than 2 minutes of this meeting left, so yeah, pretty soon it's gonna be a little cut off.
Yeah, I was just gonna let
Until
him
the
finish.
next.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna let him finish his
Oh,
sentence.
sorry, I see it now. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll phone you back in a sec.
Thank you.
Pause.
Pause. Okay,
Okay.
continue.
So, back to schools.
Yeah.
Like all the different languages will send their children to the different schools because of the language. So she would go to Afrikaans school where they all white people, English would be white people, and then all the different languages would be black people, but they will have their own schools. Except for maybe in the Cape province where the so-called colored people, most of them speak Afrikaans. So that's their language, they don't know any other language. So, they would go to colored schools. And it's only since 94 where it really started to change. And the black people believe that the white schools were better for various reasons. And maybe they were, I don't know. But today they prefer to send their children to English schools because, that's the language of industry and commerce. So it's not a bad thing to know English.
Yeah,
it's important. And
useful international.
how would you go overseas if you didn't know any English?
Right.
It would have been just about totally impossible. So I was, she was at that school as well, but when I was there, I left school, we were 1,200 children in that Afrikaans-speaking school. Now today, that school is just about all black and English-speaking, so it's changed. It's the same school, same building, but it's totally changed. Unfortunately, there's now a lot of black schools standing empty because a lot of black people believe that those schools are inferior, which I don't think so. I don't think they are inferior because there's one education department, there's same rules, same exams, same everything for everybody, but that's the perception. That's just the way it is.
So all the curriculums are pretty much nationwide, all the same.
Yeah.
All of them
one curriculum.
supposedly educated at the same level.
Yeah. And the teachers all take the same exams that you need to pass to be a teacher. It's the same as in Japan. There's one board of education that decides what happens, what needs to be taught, which curriculum they're using, which books are allowed and not allowed.
Primary school level, home language is still very important because that's the language you know from when you were born. But then when you go to high school, I've known Afrikaans parents sending their children to English high schools because they thought it was beneficial for their children. So that's their choice. You do exactly the same subjects, syllabus, whatever, there's no difference, it's just in a different language. And there's benefits to it, but there's drawbacks as well. But every parent decides what they believe is right for the child.
No.
So there's no discrimination or whatever anymore.
And at university level, all of the classes are given in English, every single one. So if you speak and understand English, which all of us do, I believe, because otherwise we cannot communicate with each other. So like in Afrikaans schools, what they would do is you would learn Afrikaans and English at the same time. So from what I understand from friends, black friends, is they would have the same thing. So say they would learn Zulu and Xhosa and then English, so that we can talk to each other. Before, like, the education system was like all the same. I know a lot of miners didn't get very good educations, but so in the mines they made a language called Fanagalo, so that all of the miners, doesn't matter which language you speak, will be able to understand each other. So that's like a added funny language.
It's a simplified mixture of languages that, they could understand what they have to do, go fix, what the tool is, the name of the tool is no different names. It has one name and that's it, so you can bring the right tool. The other interesting thing is this primary school here, close to us, which is Afrikaans primary school. You will be amazed of how many black children are in that school speaking Afrikaans. And again, that's the parents' choice. So, a lot of people hate the language because they see that as the language of the oppressor, but they send their children to Afrikaans school.
No.
So,
But
a lot of it doesn't work.
But I mean, in Messina, we had Sutu as a language. We were taught Sutu as a language in Messina, in elementary school.
Yeah, they started in bringing other languages as a choice. You know, when I was at school, Afrikaans and English you had to take. I mean, those were your languages. But then we could choose to have another language, a third language, either German or Latin. Now, Latin made a lot of sense for anybody that wanted to go in medicine and law and whatever, because everything is in Latin. Yeah. The original laws, all in Latin. Yeah. But that was the choice. You know, things change all the time. As far as minority, I honestly don't know. It doesn't bother me too much. We mix with our own people, we speak our own languages, we have our own cultures and whatever. And we associate with other cultures as well. It's not a seclusion thing. Yeah. There's always people in the politics that want to divide it and say it's us and them and whatever. In reality, it's not like that. But the politicians, because you know, you would always say first thing, what is the benefit for them? There's a benefit for them, otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, follow the money.
Yeah.
Pretty much what it comes down to.
We know each other for like only about 3+ years, but especially within that last couple of years, you know, they're looting caused by black people in the shopping mall and everywhere. Like, was it last year's summer? If I remember correctly?
That unfortunately it's increased. There's a lot more looting happening. On the one hand is because of the inefficiency of the police, which again, majority black these days, they're just too lazy to do their work. And a lot of them are very corrupt. There's 10,000 of them that shouldn't be there that have criminal records against them. 10,000. And they're still there. It just doesn't make sense. So the criminals, they pretty much do what they like. And they see it as easy money. Walk in, take a cell phone from a child or old lady or whatever. So what are you going to do? You can't, as a man, I can't storm in there and assault this guy, and they put me in jail for that. And then I have to go to court, and I am accused of being a violent criminal or whatever. But what made me react like that is because of their criminal activity. But they choose not to see it like that.
The law also is funny now. If you shoot an intruder in your house, the chances of you going to jail is pretty good. So you're defending yourself and your family.
That's
this
like
person broke in.
Rightful self-defense.
Exactly. The person broke into your house and you shot them. You didn't necessarily kill them, you just injured them. You're going to be in big trouble. You're going to be in big trouble.
One of the bills they want to amend now is that if a guy comes into your house, he breaks into your house, then you have to ask him to leave. How well do you think that's going to work? If a criminal comes in, he wants to steal or murder or whatever, right?
Any split second can matter.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Please go.
Please leave.
It just doesn't make sense. I mean, nobody in his right mind would even think of a bill like that. But it boils down to protecting the criminals. Yeah, we live in very weird times in this country. I must tell you, it's not always fun, but we manage.
But there is still like some level of interaction in the daily life with black people, like more or less.
Yeah, I mean, shopkeepers are black.
Although they're like
car guards are black.
More and more tensions rising up.
Yeah,
in the street, on the streets, the shops, everywhere you go, it's all mixed. There's no just whites or blacks or whatever. It's all mixed. The pub that I go to, like I'm going to this afternoon, the black guy there is very well spoken. And intelligent, really intelligent in both Afrikaans and English, and obviously his own language as well. But he can make the wittiest of jokes in our languages. That means he really, really has to understand the language to make a witty joke.
That shows their level.
And people love the guy. He's so nice, and people just enjoy that. So it's not, but there's all blacks, all whites, and they're all separate. That's not the case. In any culture, doesn't matter what the color is, it's the criminal part of the color, the culture, that creates the problem. And unfortunately, they are the majority. So if 90% of the people are black, then 90% of the criminals, more or less, would be black as well. It's just
Logically,
simple
Math.
mathematics.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see the mother is up. I have to go.
Okay, dankie
My friends are
Dad.
waiting.
Yeah.
Dankie Dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope you're safe and happy
Farewell.
despite all these odds.
Fun
You
things.
know.
Yeah.
I hope your condition gets
You
better
better-
as well.
Sorry?
Hope your condition gets better as well.
Yeah, we'll see about that in the new year. Oh, I don't know. You had a quick